melt is when I'm ocean waves.
I know Nova Legends podcast. I have my female basketball coaches panel. We're going to update folks on the season thus far, talk about what's going on, and hopefully talk about some of the issues that are affecting the girls' game. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, great. Well, with me today, again, are Noel Klippenstein from Westfield, Amanda Baker from Langley, and Freddie Priester from Oakton. And I think all three are off to pretty nice starts this year with young teams. So why don't we just go through and you guys can, reintroduce yourself quickly and just talk about your team so far. What you thought, how things are going as compared to expectations, and then kind of what's going on for the rest of the year. I think that Coach Priester, I think, has the Indiana Hoosier story to tell us about.
Well, I got a few things I can share from that. That was fun.
Always a few stories. So why don't we start with Coach Noel, and let's hear about Westfield.
So we started out a little slow, to be honest. We had a tip-off tournament. We had 6 games in 10 days. This year we had nearly everybody healthy, which was a great sign compared to last season. And then the last couple games we played in Colgan in a tournament, and we had a little bit of a break in between. So we had a chance to regroup a little bit and change some things up, because as we were anticipating the season and who was going to make varsity, tryouts didn't quite go exactly as we envisioned. So we needed to make some adjustments, and the kids are starting to respond to those at a good time, because the district games start on Tuesday. So we're just looking forward to that. But we are young, and we try to be energetic. But the thing for me, I have Tim Brown as a coach who's been coaching with me for 3 years. I have Carl Harris, who's back with me after 15 years. So it's a fun reunion. And then Mary Epps, who was a camper of mine a long time ago. It's been really fun coaching with this staff and trying to come up with new ideas and problem solve. And it's kind of given me new life after all these years. So just happy to be going.
Great. Well, thanks, Coach. Let's go to Coach Amanda. Coach, you had a really nice team last year. You got far in the postseason, but you had a lot of players graduate, but you guys have really had a really strong start to your season. I think you had a really big win last week, and it looks like you're known to be a great defensive coach, and it looks like your defense is still as strong as ever.
Yeah, I think last time we talked, my messaging was very much of there's a lot of unknowns coming up. And we are finally at a point, I think, where we have figured out roles. We've got a lineup established. The girls have kind of figured out where they fit in and what they bring to the table at a great time. It did take a little bit of time up front. Like, we had 2 really early losses, our first 2 games, to Edison and Madison. And they were huge learning experiences that I think made the process of figuring out roles and stuff go a little faster, because they didn't want to lose anymore. So once we figured it out, we've got this lineup established. I think we're at a great place, like as Noel said, entering district play. We've already played a few district games, but we've got a really, really tough one coming up on Friday at Herndon. And I think we're gelling and things are going well as we, enter the Hornets' nest on Friday.
Don't get stung. I did see a little bit of the Washington Lee Yorktown game, and Washington Lee looked strong that night, but you guys handled them pretty easy. So what was the key to that victory?
They're definitely much improved, and we respected that a lot going into the game. So we had a very specific game plan, and the girls were very dialed in. So I think that was the reason that the score looked the way it did. But no doubt about it, they're improved a lot, and their coach Liz is fantastic. You can see like the girls are really buying into what she's doing. So I know we'll see them again, and I doubt it'll be quite as lopsided second time around.
And your point guard, I think your point guard graduated last year, and that was you were going to play a freshman at that point, I believe. Have you been able to get nice play out of the point guard position?
Yeah, we planned on kind of easing her in a little bit more. And then the first quarter of our first game, our senior point guard got a concussion. And so it was like, all right, we're like, your return is here a little bit sooner than we expected. And she just handled it flawlessly and has never relinquished the position since. So she's doing great, learning a lot on the fly. And I'm really excited that she's still so early in her career and doing so much already.
Oh, great. That reminds me of a story about a quarterback who Coach Priestley knows about because he was also a coach named Mark Cox, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of Northern Region. He played at Annandale, and in his freshman year, they were at Robinson. Robinson was great at the time, coached by Ed Henry from Remember the Titans fame. And as a freshman, senior quarterback got hurt, and he had to go in to a packed house. There's 10,000 people there, and he was quarterback for the next 3.5 years, and that's how it all started. So maybe I guess it's baptism under fire is what they say. So no time to be nervous. This is put your head down and go. So
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, thanks, Coach. So Coach Priester, now you guys are off to a terrific start this year. I got to see you play a couple times last year, and it was tough being around Madison because Madison was so strong last year. But it looks like you guys are at least in the early season one of the teams to shoot for.
Well, I mean, we've played well at times for sure. Thinking about the whole freshman thing, a couple of things come to mind. I remember, I think it was her first game as the point guard at Caroline Queer was out there, and something didn't go precisely the way I was hoping. And she looked at me and I said, "Are you the point guard or what?" And she remembers that to this day. And first game, and she was the point guard, of course, for the next 4 years. But point guards have a special place in our hearts. Usually, well, not after they're gone, but sometimes it takes a while before that establishes itself. But freshman point guards are interesting. You had said we were young. We're not really young in the sense that we actually start 4 seniors.
Oh, wow.
But I think something that I'm not 100% sure of this, but I'm fairly sure is kind of rare. 3 of those kids played on our freshman team at one point, which is not kind of the thing that happens on the girls' side very often. I'm sure there are more out there, but these kids have put in the time, and they're getting a chance to play and getting a chance to try to make some impact. And as I said, we've played well at times. Some other times we haven't played as well, but we've been able to come away with some wins. There's 2 scoreboards. There's the one that you all see, and then there's the one that's in my head. Okay. And so sometimes we might win on the one that you see, but we didn't win on the one that I have in my head. And my players will tell you that that's probably not a good spot to be in. And so then we go back to work, because my basic philosophy is if things aren't going the way you're supposed to do, there's really only one option, and that's work harder. And so, I like my kids. I like my team a lot. They've worked hard to get to where they are. And it is very much a role type team. I don't know if they all love their roles, but they understand them. And so everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and we go from there. Yeah. But yeah, I've been pleased so far. But our district is very tough, and so I've seen a lot of teams play. I've seen Amanda's team play. I've seen Noel's team play, and I've seen almost everybody play in person at least once, because I'm still old school that way. You can watch all the tape you want, but it's hard to get a real feel unless you go out and see people play. You guys can disagree if you want. Even though there's been some games where there is, a fairly large disparity of points at the end, I saw points in those games where it could have gone either way. And then it was just one little run here, or one little mistake here, or an interesting call here or there. And then you throw in that there's been injuries and sickness and stuff like that. I was flat on my back for 5 days, over Christmas. Merry Christmas to me. and we've had kids on our team sick, and I think everybody has. And so like at our Christmas tournament, we had 12 teams, and I'm pretty sure that every one of them was playing shorthanded.
Well, the COVID years aren't quite behind us yet, I guess, huh?
Well, that whole respiratory thing, it's not necessarily, with me, it was COVID, but with some of the others, it was just that respiratory stuff.
I made it through the pandemic with none of that, and then I had RSV and COVID in the last month or two, and our whole house was pretty much the same. Coach Noel, has there been a transition going from Coach Yule to Coach Harris?
You know what? It's awesome because I get to work with Doug every day at school. We teach together. And so in that respect, it doesn't feel different because he's still around. And I knew Kevin beforehand, so it just feels like we've added one to the family. But the games, because we play separate, I don't really get to see. I've only gotten to see them play one time because we're always playing either home or away. So I think that there are some differences. Really, the only thing that has changed is that we need to try and keep tinkering on our practice schedule. Other than that, it's like I said, one more member of the family, so we get to talk about more basketball, and I love that because my new assistant coaches, we just get to spend more time having new conversations, and still having the ones with Doug. So it's a good situation.
Oh, cool. Yeah, two really smart people you can lean on, I guess. If that's how the relationship grows. Coach Amanda, you did mention that this is kind of a newer team, and that you're putting parts together. Do you enjoy that part of the job more than when you have a senior laden team, when you know exactly what you're going to have going into the season? I mean, do you enjoy kind of a clean slate where you have to see where the pieces fit?
I would say there's equal enjoyment in both scenarios and equal stress because when you have a senior led team that everybody knows and it's supposed to win, there's a lot of pressure and expectation, but you also have a group of girls who know exactly what to do every day. But then when you have the clean slate, there's a lot of fun and experimenting and no pressure, but then you still have growing pains. So there's ups and downs with both. And I'm just enjoying this experience. I know in a couple of years, we're going to be on the other end of the spectrum where these names are going to be known and there's going to be expectations on them. So it's there's more freedom right now, less pressure. And I think they're enjoying it. So I'm feeding off of that.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. It's not easy to do. I'm sure. Well, why don't we start off with, I was talking to Coach Pope. He coaches at Northside. He's a men's boys coach. He just notched his 600th career win. He played at Mount Vernon High School in the 70s. And we're talking about Christmas holiday tournaments. And one thing that I've noticed with Northern Virginia teams, there are so many holiday trips. We're getting a lot of interesting matchups during the holiday seasons more than ever. More teams are traveling, but not traveling, going to DC or just we're getting good matchups. And not just holidays. We're seeing showcases on weekends. Hayfield was in a showcase this weekend, the boys' side, where they played Jackson Reed, which is kind of an interesting lineup. But all year long, you're seeing these different types of they call them festivals or showcases. What do you guys think about that kind of scheduling? That didn't exist when I played. We had holiday tournaments, but only certain teams did that. Do you guys like the flexibility of having these tournaments in the middle of the season? Is it complicate things? Is it stack up games? Or does it make it so there's gaps in your schedule of the other parts? Does it make it hard to coordinate with the men's program and the JV programs? What do you guys think about all these types of tournaments that we're seeing mid-season now?
Well, I think the Northern region does a pretty good job of just kind of making the schedule interesting on their own. We played 12 games in 4 weeks, and then we have had the last entire week off, and then we play 10 games in 5 weeks. Now, part of that was, our scheduling as well, because when you schedule a Christmas tournament, you have a choice to do that yourself. But We have, and I don't mean this in any way critically, it's kind of, they're hamstrung a little bit. The CPS has added some new no play days and things like that. And then when you start adding in the other sports, like this week, we had the whole week off, but Tuesday night, we had a gymnastics meet, so 1 hour practice. Wednesday night, we had a wrestling meet, so 1 hour practice. Thursday night, we had curriculum fair for next year, 1 hour practice. So not exactly a lot of practice going on, during this week off, and we'll be, appropriately rusty, I'm sure, come Tuesday night when we start our district play. So there's already that. As for the other things, some of these things that are being held at sites that are not scholastic sites, I think it's just another step away from high school sports. It's corporate stuff and people making money and people going to games, but not going to games at their high school, going to their games at some place that's putting the money in their pockets. So I'm not super duper in favor of those things. I think also, and I'm guilty of this myself, I think that like, because we had several private schools at our tournament, which is a round robin tournament. It's not a bracketed tournament. And I don't know that we're not hurting ourselves as we see more and more kids jumping to private schools. We're just showcasing the private schools for them. So that's a couple of thoughts. As I said, I'm not the only one, or I'm not saying I don't do that. I had some private schools in my tournament, but increasingly I'm not probably interested in doing that.
It's interesting you say that.
I lost a lot of kids to private schools. When I say private schools, these are Catholic kids going to O'Connell and kids going to Paul VI that may or may not be Catholic. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But at any rate, that's one thing. But now we're getting a lot of the, other types of private schools. I'm sure they're good schools and all that stuff like that. But they're playing with a different set of rules than we're playing with.
It's interesting you said that at the Hayfield Jackson Reed game yesterday. It was a 4-game showcase, and I think it was a corporate event. It was $15 each for me and my son to get in, which, I mean, I wanted to see this game, but that's a lot of money for a high school game. But, they had a DJ playing music and stuff during timeouts. That's interesting for a high school game. But I know most of the officials in the area for the Cardinal and the Board 12 have been around a long time. I don't know where they got these officials from. I just don't think there were officials that were on the level of the kind of game it was. And I think it kind of didn't work. It didn't work out too well. I don't think. To me, it was disappointing.
Well, I mean, just again, I'm going to shut up now, but the fact is that, there's a different goal there. The goal of those things is different than the goals that we might have, as high school coaches.
Anyone else want to jump in here, Coach Noel, or?
Yeah, we went to Colgan this year and we had tried to travel and couldn't during COVID, but we had been on a cycle at Westfield where we host the Bulldog Bash one year and then the boys do it the next year and then we travel. And so one year we went to Florida and, it's such a great experience to go out of the area, and spend the night and be with your team. You can get rid of a lot of distractions. You can spend some time together. And our kids, we didn't go overnight, but this time that we spent together was so valuable.
Oh, great.
Because they hadn't really spent time together. It was like, come in, do basketball, get out, go to school, and then go hang out with your friends. Well, now our kids are starting to become friends with their teammates. And so it's a lot easier to set a goal when we're all facing the same direction. And these times help with that. The competition level, you try and set that up so that you're going to go to a tournament that's going to be, right about where you are so that you're going to, have to stretch. So that's good. But I'll tell you, going away, even though it was only an hour, was such a good experience for us. And then next year we may or may not start the Bulldog Bash again because we haven't gone away in a while. But it is a funny thing when you have to worry about some other things like money and exposure and those points, when really the bottom line is we're trying to get better for the district, for the high school district tournament, regional tournament, and state tournament. And so we're just going to stay true to that. And I do like the fact that we get to schedule it, because like Fred said, our schedule isn't great. We had 2 games scheduled over the holidays with no games scheduled the week before the holidays and no games scheduled the week after the holidays. So the master schedule gave us 2 games in 30 days. So we got to make the most of it. And, you know, at some point, maybe we can get on a committee where we can talk about how to help that. But at least we get to schedule these tournaments. And so I like those. And then if somebody wants to go big and do something else, that's up to whatever their program goals are.
You know, Coach Noel, you're such an optimist. You know, as an official, I used to think of the ride out to Colgan as torture, and you looked at it as a very positive day, a team building exercise. So that just goes to show you how we can look at something in a total.
I went out there to watch you play, and it was torture.
Yeah. So
well, but we didn't plan on staying local for convenience.
Exactly.
Anything to make it harder on Fred is a benefit for us.
There you go. Hey, we always that was my job as an official to make the night hard on Fred as well. Coach Amanda, did you guys go anywhere during the holidays, and what was your experience?
We played at O'Connell, so pretty much local, and it was a round robin type situation. Probably the best game we got out of that tournament was playing Urbana from Maryland. They're historically a pretty strong program. The cool thing about that was the shot clock. It was nice to give the kids a little bit of a wild card, and it showed us that we can be really efficient in our offense. Like, we don't need a ton of time. 30 seconds is plenty. So that was a great learning experience. But I think both coaches made really good points about travel and tournaments. There's definitely a line I probably won't cross going into some of those tournaments where it feels a little corporate-y. But there are situations like going to Florida once every 5 years. You know, that could be really fun, a great team building experience. So I'm not completely against it, but there's so much talent in our area. You don't have to go very far to get good games. So we stayed local this year. Maybe in a couple of years we'll go somewhere. Yeah, but it'll be something that's established.
Yeah. Well, you might be the coach of Langley, but you still use your people's money wisely, huh? So you don't. You're very easy to go to Florida.
Time too. Time is money. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, before I want to hear about what's that, Coach? I want to hear about the Hoosiers trip, but can we first? We've never talked about the shot clock before, so I've seen quite a few games with the shot clock this year, because one of my best friend's son plays at Flint Hill, and they have a shot clock. And one thing I've noticed about the shot clock is it's sometimes helpful for kids who are just coming to the game, or kids that don't score a lot, because when the shot clock is running down, it forces people to be creative that may wait for someone else, defer to someone else to shoot if there's no shot clock. So I kind of like the idea of a shot clock, because it makes others have to step up at times, because there's only 5 seconds left. Somebody has to shoot. What do you guys think about the shot clock? I mean, obviously it's probably time for Virginia to join the rest of the country, but what do you guys, any comments about the shot clock?
I would like it.
Some years I like it, some years I don't. It just the team I've got, you know. I think for the most part, it would probably benefit us. I think Amanda's team does a great job on defense, and the same. A lot of times, people have said to me, well, you know, your scores are low. And if you actually went and looked at the tape, what you'd find is that our scores are low is because we're making it hard for them to score. And so it cuts down the number of possessions for us as well. You know, I'm not bragging, that's certainly not the case all the time, but in some cases, that's the case. So if you're scoring in the 40s, it may not be that you're slowing the ball down offensively. It may be that you're playing such good defense, the other team can't find a shot. So, you know, so like I say, I go back and forth on it. You know, the big thing is it's another person to screw up at the scores table. You know, and we already have, all due respect, we already have enough room for that kind of thing to happen. You know, well, anyway, that so I if they put it in, I wouldn't fight it. but I wouldn't necessarily go out and champion the cause.
Coach Amanda, why do you like it? Why do you like it so much?
I think it would make end of games a lot more interesting.
Mhm.
I think we've been accused of this, using the offensive clock for a lot of the fourth quarter if you have a lead. I mean, that's obviously a strategy you can do because there's no shot clock. So playing within the confines of the rules, that's a way to get a win. But I think if the shot clock was there, then there would be more possessions at the end of the game and less coaches trying to control it with timeouts, less fouls happening, dragging out the fourth quarter. It would just, make it faster paced and more exciting towards the end. But, I'm good with the way it is and working well for us, being able to control the ball a lot. But I do think towards the end, there are times where I'm like, gosh, if we have to start fouling now with like 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
And that could be avoided with a shot clock.
Well, that's the argument for and argument against. Coach Noel, are you going to break the tie here? Or,
No,
no comment?
no, we'll just wait and go with whatever rules they give and keep going.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's definitely has to come eventually, I would think. Before we talk about the teams, some of the surprises that are in the area, Coach Priester, you want to tell us about your trip to Indiana?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, when I was talking about the tournament before, I wasn't talking about that, like Amanda said, every few years going away. I mean, we've traveled to Arizona, we've traveled to Texas, we've traveled to Delaware, we've traveled to Florida. We've done that, all of those different things over the years. This was a deal where last summer I was out in Indiana and I stopped in at the Hoosier gym, and I'm shooting around a little bit and just enjoying the whole ambiance and all that stuff like that. And I'm talking to the guy and he says, well, yeah, we have some games in here. I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, yeah, high school teams can be. I said, wait, time out. What? And so right away, I decided that this was what we were going to do. Well, then I found out that Indiana had a rule that said you can't play anybody that's more than 300 miles away from you. And I had set up, but I had heard the rule was going to change. And our former AD from Oakton is an AD at Lebanon High School in Indiana. Julian, you might, I doubt if Noel or Amanda, you'll get points if you know this, but that's where Rick Mount went to school. Do you know Rick Mount?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, All-American at Purdue, NBA star, leading scorer in the history of Indiana basketball. At any rate, I got my picture taken with his granddaughter. She's on the team now. But anyway, so he was there, and so we were going to set up a game. Well, then they came back and said, no, we're not changing the rule. So he went and got another game. Then they called him back a month later and said, hey, you know what? We decided to change the rule. And I said, okay, we're back in business. Can you get me a game? And he said, yeah, let me see what I can do. Well, the only team that was really looking for a game, this is his story and he's sticking to it, was the defending state champs at the highest grade level, or the highest class in Indiana, which is 4A.
I wonder why they were available.
Nobody wanted to play him. Okay, so they had everybody returning. They had 11 players returning from that team, and I thought we might get a break because the best player on that team was a UConn signee, and she transferred to a basketball factory, and so I thought, oh, good. Now only 10 returners. Little did I know until I did a little research that 6 of them were D1 players. So, but you know what? I didn't care. Okay. So we went out there to play. And so we got there and we went up to Lebanon and we toured the gym where, if you know Hoosiers, where he's shooting the underhanded free throws, Ollie. And that was the old Lebanon High School gym. And so we took video of the girls all shooting underhanded layups or underhanded charity tosses from underneath the basket. And there was a guy there, an older fella, telling them all kinds of stories. And the girls were really, really super polite. And I don't know until everywhere we went in Indiana, people would see there was a basketball team there and they would come up to them and start talking about basketball, telling stories, telling old things. And at the end, the kid said, we thought you were kidding. They have no idea what basketball means in Indiana. It means everything. And we were just repeatedly having those kinds of experiences. We went to see Butler Fieldhouse, which is where the finals were played, and saw the Butler women play against the University of Illinois. And we were sitting there thinking, wow, Illinois looks pretty good. Well, Illinois is really good now. And they beat Iowa the other day, and they've gotten really good. So we saw maybe the blooming of a Big Ten power there. And people would just come up to them and talk to them and start telling them basketball stories about Indiana from all years after that. Then we went to the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, which in and of itself is just, you know, it has the actual shot, the Bobby Plump, the film of that. It has a ton of stuff about Oscar Robertson and the Christmas Addicts team winning the state championship when I was just a boy in 1955 and 1956. And some real important social stuff that basketball really changed things in Indiana. And those teams did, because those were the only teams that were not allowed to drive around the Monument Circle when they won the state championship. And then George McGinnis, a few years, well, about 12 years later, when Indiana Washington won the championship, they made a very big deal of driving around the Monument Circle. So just so many things about Indiana basketball. The Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame is right next to Newcastle High School. That's the largest high school gym in the world. It seats 11,000 and fills up every Friday and Saturday night in a town of 7,000. So, and then we went to the zoo, and we went to the NCAA thing, and then we went and played the game. And we practiced there. I have a good video of us practicing there. And then we played the game, and we played pretty well. I mean, there was a whole bunch of D1 college coaches there checking out their kids. And we played them dead even for in middle of the third quarter.
Oh, that's awesome.
We you know, I mean, like they were great shooters, and it was a small court too, and they ran a full court 1-3-1, and they were like all over the place, and they came at you in waves and stuff like that. And we did a good job, did not have excessive number of turnovers until the end when I tried to make sure everybody got a chance to play. We hit 10 threes. You know, we played them pretty even. And, you know, I can say I felt okay about how we played. You know, it still nags a little bit. I don't like losing at all, but the fact is our effort was there, and it was just a great trip. And I think the biggest thing is that the kids came away from it with a little bit better understanding of me and a little bit better understanding of, you know, how deeply embedded basketball is in my DNA, even though I was a better baseball player than a basketball player, to be honest with you, you know, which I told you when we talked a long time ago. But I think they appreciated it a lot. And as Noel said, they spent time, you know, together. And we have a couple freshmen, and we have 5 kids up off our JV, in addition to these kids that started on the freshman team. So they're working hard, and we're really trying to maximize what our overall talent pool is. And as I said, I'm pleased with the team, and I'm pleased that we're putting in the effort. And you know, I think our district is going to be really tough, but I'm not going to change anything about the fact that we're doing well. As long as we're winning on my scoreboard up here, then I'll be okay with the rest of it.
That
Sorry.
sounds like a trip you can really build off of. You know, when I interview a lot of basketball players, obviously, and I always love when I talk to people from Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, those little areas of the country, even North Carolina, where basketball is religion. And it's you know, it's just so part of their culture that, you know, when they play another town, the whole town convoys to the game. You know, those.
Well, I like to throw out this quote. James Naismith, of course, invented basketball in Springfield, Massachusetts, and within a year after that, he moved to Indiana. Okay, and he brought the game with him. And then he subsequently moved to Kansas, and Kansas is another place where basketball is very big, and in part because he was there. But he is quoted as saying there's something peculiar about the people from Indiana that makes them absolutely suited for this game. I'm not really sure what he means by that, but he just felt like it really struck a like a nerve deep in the I don't know, the overall psyche of Hoosiers.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great trip, Coach. Thanks for sharing that. Well, let's go to, we talked briefly that Langley, Oakton, you guys are some of the teams, I don't know about surprises, but teams to beat early in the season. Who are some of the other surprises early in the year? I know that West Springfield, I've seen they've had some pretty nice wins, and that might be a little bit, I think they were down maybe last year. But what are some of the other surprises? I know, Robinson, who went to the state quarters last year, right? Or semis last year, they've been playing well. They got some bigs. I know Osborne Park, they're in another region. They're predicted to be great, but they lost their first district game to Patriot, which was, I guess, mildly a surprise at least. So who are some of the teams that are playing well up to this point?
Centerville's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave us a tough loss, and they have a lot of talent. So, I mean, they're not in our district, so I can say that and not have to see them again, hopefully till regionals. But they're strong. They're very strong.
You can say it with a smile.
Yeah, I'm past them for now.
Exactly. Who's coaching at Centerville?
Joe.
Yeah, Joe McLean.
She played at Westfield. I'm not sure. I don't remember when she graduated, but she played at Westfield. She was a nice player at Westfield, and she's been there for 3 or 4 years now. And was she your assistant for a while, Noel? Yeah. So 2 years. Okay. They have a good mix of kids. They had some come in and some left. But I mean, I think she does a nice job, and I think they're certainly someone that's going to be someone you have to deal with for sure.
It's interesting because it's not easy to change cultures, because once especially in a day where parents will move or kids will go to private school, and when a school is not playing well in basketball, it's not the easiest thing sometimes. Like for Centerville, I haven't heard that name for a while, so to change that, it's great for Coach McLean. Anyone else? Coach Noel, is there a school you got your eyes on?
Centerville.
They're not far away. They're not far away either, are they?
Well, they're next door, and Joe and I have known each other for a while, and that's who we have on Tuesday. So then it's Fred, then and so on.
I mean, listen, the Kirsten, we said we're going to talk about Kirsten. I mean, Madison is by no means out of anybody's picture. They're very, very solid across the board. And truthfully, I mean, I've seen Hernan play. They have a couple bigs and a couple kids that can play hard. South Lakes has a lot of the kids back from last year. I think maybe they're not 50-50 games, but I certainly don't think. I think every game we played so far has been a 50-50 game, and I think every game we have remaining is a 50-50 game. I don't have any games on our schedule that I think, okay, that's a definite win. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I know, Yorktown has been struggling a bit, but they got a couple people hurt and one in our game. And then they've had some personnel changes as well. So, Devon is, he knows what he's doing. He might be able to, he can probably get them back to go. And Amanda already mentioned, we played W&L, and they're particularly difficult to play at their place. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great gym.
Yeah. And, we came out of there successfully, but it was not, by any stretch of the imagination, an easy win or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, of course, Coach Stone, how many of those players that she has this year played meaningful minutes for her? I know she had obviously the twins, and she had some seniors on that historic team last year. Does she have some kids back that were just 2 kids?
Well, I think Link was a starter.
Yeah.
at least most of the time, or, you know, she shared with, because they had Chapman and then, you know, the two girls whose names begin with G, you know, got some time last year, but they're very strong. And Kayla Dixon played a lot last year. So at least two that played substantial minutes and two that were just right below that, you know, maybe 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. And, you know, because they had a lot of wins that were substantial wins, I'm sure those kids got plenty of minutes. So I don't know. You don't have any way of knowing that for a fact.
And they had to play against those great players in practice every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, they're definitely very, very strong. And I assume that Edison is pretty good. It's the way this is set up now, you know, you almost don't know that much about that region anymore. You know, it seems like, you know, even when they do regionally scheduled games, we wind up playing Amanda's district and they wind up playing us. And so there's not as much crossover as you might think between the two regions. You know, there's one thing I can tell you about this is that as I've seen this, virtually every team that I've seen has 1 or 2 freshmen that are contributing.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. A lot of good freshmen.
so I think the class of whatever this is, 2027, I'm not necessarily going to say it's going to start a trend back to basketball. That would be nice if it did, but it's certainly a strong class. This year's freshman class is certainly
Making a comeback
yeah.
awesome.
Well, we can keep our fingers crossed.
with new names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any players that have emerged in the early part of the season that maybe they weren't on our radar last year or even in the off season?
Marshall has a freshman point guard sticking with that theme that I did not know about, and then have seen her play many times now and definitely on the radar. I can't think of her name at the moment, but you guys probably know who I'm talking about.
I saw her
she-
play.
We
She
played
got
against-
us. She got us we were tied at the end.
Oh,
and
right.
she got us. So, yeah, we know who she is now.
I actually saw her I saw the fourth quarter against Madison, and it was still a really good game. And she's very
I actually got my scorebook right here, so I can tell you what her name is. But we had to certainly, you know, pay attention to her for sure.
Well, she's athletic and aggressive, and as she gets more confident and more comfortable in the environment, she's going to go. But we gave her a great opportunity, and she took advantage of it because she had several points. Most of her points were in the fourth quarter, kind of quiet in the first half, and then the second half. I think actually she had all her points in the second half of our game.
She had she had 7 of her 11 in the second half. Her last name is Nwude, but her first name begins with A. It's like, I want to say it's like Adora Nwudi. You know, yeah, she's strong, but I mean, she's just an example of what I'm saying. You know, there's lots of freshman kids out there. I can go through the scorebook and pick one out, you know, on virtually every team.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe again in a couple of years we'll have some very very strong classes. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about last year's graduates, or even for the last couple of years. Are you guys finding that kids that play in college, players that play in college, are picking the right level? Are the kids like I'm an example of the Arnold twins? One went Division III, one went Division I. Both are playing, so it looks like they picked well, or maybe you can argue. I think it's Gettysburg. I forgot. Is it Gracie Gettysburg? But okay, I got it wrong. But maybe you can argue she could have picked a Division I. But are kids?
It may be at Gettysburg too.
She is.
Yeah. So anyway, how are the kids doing that went last year? And generally, are kids making the right choices in terms of level they pick in college?
I think that one of the things that we have to just mention here, of course, and I think we might have talked about this the last time, is the impact of the portal. And the fact that there's not that many D1 scholarships out there available for kids graduating from high school, because colleges are restocking with kids out of the portal. And so it's almost where kids have to go someplace, do the very best job they can, then they have to be aware of the portal themselves. When I saw this question, I had to smile. Sophia Zinzi is having a good time at Tennessee, and Sejal Singh is an RA now at Penn. They don't play basketball, my bad. But they were our two best seniors last year. So, but I could say Hannah Kaloy is getting substantial minutes for CNU. She graduated a couple years ago, and they're ranked #1 in the country in Division III.
Well, that's awesome. They've always been good.
Well, they were ranked #1 last year, and depending upon your perspective, they got hosed in the NCAA tournament because it was for the first time ever the #1 ranked team in the country did not get a home game in the first round, and they had to go up to Amherst, and I think they won the first one and lost the second one up there. But you know, they're well, and all the other top Division III schools are all private schools. They're the only state-supported school that's in the top, I think, 10 in D3, and so she's doing well. She's had some multiple, and there's a lot of local kids there. Gabby San Diego, yes, from Gabby San Diego from South County is there, and there was a kid who just graduated last year that was from Loudoun County, and they have several other kids. Lexi White went there, although I don't think she stayed. So, you know, he does, Coach Broderick does a good job, and he has signed Caitlin Crump from our team this year. So he does a good job of recruiting the Northern Virginia area. Oh, and also he recruited Elizabeth Creed from Meridian. So he got 2 this year.
Girls basketball and girls soccer are always great. Like Northern Virginia is always a good place to get great players, or for Division III, really good solid players. Coach Amanda or Coach Noel, you guys have any recruiting updates or any sage advice?
No, I just love listening to Fred. I'm getting a lot of information. Catching up.
He's been around a few years.
Well, I'll agree. I mean, Creed from Meridian, she's fantastic.
Good.
She's all around. And, you know, for Coach Broderick, just to go back home, he doesn't have to search too far to find, you know, good talent because he used to be there.
Yeah.
How's AB doing, Amanda?
She's doing really well, playing a ton of minutes, meaningful minutes too, like, you know, crunch time type minutes. So I think she's growing a ton and just developing her skills even more. And another Virginia school, D3 school that I have to give a shout out to, my alma mater, Mary Washington. Dina Appleberry just surpassed the 400 win mark this past week.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like I should say something about that while we're talking about college hoops. And they have quite a few local kids. I mean, a crazy roster of local kids, actually. Keegan Schwab from South County is there, Elizabeth Dufresne, Baxter, and Pavlik from Chantilly. I mean, it's just a huge, Molly Sharman's there. I think I could list probably their whole team from Northern Virginia. So there's a lot of kids that are playing great Division III basketball. So if they want to play, it's a good place for that level. Is a good level for a lot of the talent in the area.
And those schools that we're mentioning are good academic schools as well.
They are.
From a counseling point of view, those are good academic schools, and they provide an experience that you know, a little bit more personalized experience sometimes for the kids, and a little bit more freedom. And they want to win just as bad. Don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little less something. I don't know. It's not quite as that's not the right word either. I don't know what the right word is.
There's good balance.
There you go. Good word, Amanda. It's a much more balanced experience, you know, than sometimes D1 can be.
I went through this with my son, in that he was a good high school soccer player, club soccer player, but for him to play Division III in college, we'd either have to pay a lot of money and to go to a great academic institution. He's a really good student, and send him north as one of these, you know, little type Ivies or something like that. He could play in Virginia. Virginia has some great opportunities like Washington Lee and Mary Washington's very good. Christopher Newport's very good. But those rosters aren't necessarily, you can make a roster, but whether you get playing time is not definite. So it's one of those things where your sport can can work against you, and you end up getting a worse education than you had set out for. But you know, you can have that balanced experience, but you really have to weigh a lot of factors if you're thinking about Division III. At least that's the soccer equation. I'm sure it's different for basketball, maybe, but definitely for soccer, it's a tough decision to make.
My sons played Division III baseball at Lynchburg in Virginia and Washington College in Maryland. And each had solid experience. One got hurt, was hurt so often he finally stopped playing. The other one, ironically enough, by his senior year when he was due to start, a D1 guy dropped down and took the starting job away from him. But they both had good, solid educational experiences, and playing was a positive in their lives. So
Yeah.
in the end of the day, isn't that kind of what we're hoping for? That they'll have something positive in their lives, they'll have a good experience, and they'll get the education they set out to get. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, it's easy for the soccer dad. I don't have to travel for all these games anymore. I have plenty of time to do podcasts or whatever else I like to do, even though I miss it terribly. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about officiating, not whether it's been good or bad, but just whether or not, are you guys, I assume post-COVID, we're getting 3-man crews. Are we getting folks doing JV and varsity games? And I think they have, which I think is a good idea, they have staggered some varsity games so they can have varsity refs, you know, more than a couple times a week. And I have seen the same refs often this year. So guys are doing, you know, triple duty. Guys and gals are doing triple duty during the week. But what about officiating? Any comments or anything you've noticed with the officials this season?
Yeah, most of the officials have been very friendly, very upbeat. And then some of them said, hey, I haven't been here in a couple of years. So there's kind of a reunion of sorts, you know, glad to have them back because we were short staffed for a while. But for years, we've been scheduling a week where we play on a Monday and a Thursday to accommodate the officials, because there aren't enough of them to go around for all the games that are in demand for Cardinal for our area. We just got an email the other day that said, hey, you know, apparently the schedule wasn't conducive. We didn't spread it out enough. So we're going to have 2-man crews in January when we're supposed to be having the heightened competition getting ready for the playoffs. And you just saying it, well, so what can we do? I mean, can we schedule double headers? Because I'm all for those, but even when we schedule a double header, we get a different crew than the boys. So it doesn't help.
They don't do both. They won't do both games.
Oh, some do and some don't. I don't know. I wish I had a roster, like a little composite of all their names and their pictures so I could remember who everybody was. But it's a little bit frustrating because they do a good job, but I don't understand the logistics of how we got to that if we're already doing the accommodating the schedule. So it's unfortunate that we got this email. And then I said, well, are we doing anything? And I said, no, we don't plan on making any schedule changes. I mean, we could go to Saturdays. I mean, there's other things that we could do, but I'm not sure. I'm not privy to what is being decided. So maybe the other two coaches have some more insight.
Yeah. Anyone want to jump on that live grenade there?
I didn't know about that. That's news to me.
Yeah.
Now that's we will have at least 2 games or more where we'll only have 2 officials. Once they did away with the scratch list, they also did away with us having an exact copy of how many people are actually working and who's doing what, when, where, and why, because we don't have a list to work from, you know. I understand that they have some problems. I do understand that too, that we are the customer, and I don't know, one would think that would have something to do with something, you know, that you would, as the customer, you would have some rights, but you know, a lot of that I think stops with the DSAs or even higher. And so we as coaches don't have much input. They don't ask us because they don't really want the answers. and because then if you give them the answers and then they decide to do something else, then they feel like they're in a bad spot, you know. But yeah, we're doing Monday and Thursday. Everybody's doing Monday and Thursday. I think Patriots doing Monday and Thursday this week. Yeah, I think they're playing tomorrow. And Monday and Thursday is not ideal because it does leave a fairly good gap when you go from Friday, you play Friday, and then you have like one day to throw some stuff together for your Monday game. You know, if you're a game planner type person. I think what's humorous is I'm not really sure what was the idea behind us having a meeting at 10 minutes before the game. It changed my pregame ritual because usually at 10 minutes before the game, I'm just changing clothes, you know. But anyway, we have to be out there, and if you're not out there, it's a technical foul for this meeting. And then they go, so I guess how you doing? What's new? How's this? How's that? How's the family? Is everybody wearing the proper uniform? Let's be sportsmanlike. See you later. I don't even think they know why they're doing it. But you know, it's humorous to me.
Is the two-man crew, is it going to affect the boys' games too, or just the girls' games? Or it's good.
Well, it better affect both games, or we'll be having more conversations.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Very simple.
Title IX still in play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I officiated for 20 years, and high school for 17, and all different types of ball, from kids to adults. And I remember when they first made this push for three-man crew, I was against it because as an official, I'd rather have one decent partner than one good partner and one partner that wasn't so good. I thought for consistency's sake, I'd always rather have two men. So we went to three. We were sold on the fact that you get better coverage. You can also allow maybe older officials to stay in the game because it's less movement. Allow younger officials to get big games earlier because you can put them in a crew with more experienced officials. But we may have oversold how much we need three-man crew. I always thought what the game was fine with two refs, and now we act like we need it so much that we don't have enough, and then we have to explain why we don't have a third ref. So it's one of those things where
I think the game is called differently, and if they're going to call the games differently, then I'm going to want to coach the game differently. It's not as cut and dried as this, but a lot of times I could tell an official, I said, that play is designed that the only way that they can stop it is to foul. And if you're where you're supposed to be, you should be able to see that. Well, except that now, if the angles are different, I certainly can't use that argument anymore because the angle is just not the same. And and with three-man crews, I still got the one thing that I always hated to hear, and that was when I would say something, no matter how gently I would say it, I said, "That's not my call, ref." Coach. I went,
that's always comforting, isn't it?
wait, what?
I
don't understand what you're saying to me. That you saw it, but it was your partner's call, and you didn't want him to make him look bad, as opposed to doing it right. It was always one of the ones that I did not care for that response. And like I say, I actually feel like when we do two-man crews, I'll probably be more understanding of missed calls.
Yep. I think the biggest deficiency with the two-man crew is it's harder to see all the 3-point shots. I think you can make up for most of the things, and you can be more consistent with one partner than you can with two. But you do lose a little bit of coverage in transition, and definitely it's probably hard to see the whole 3-point stripe. So you may. And
you also, if they don't make a call for a while, you get trapped with an official that's going to keep missing the same thing. And the basketball is a game of runs.
Yeah.
And if you only have a two-man crew, we're stuck. And so then we have to, I've called a timeout on a two-man crew just so I can get the referees to take a break for a sec so that they can re-engage. And I only got 5.
Yeah.
But that's sort of senseless in the fact that, we're getting pounded underneath and they've, hooked us 3 times in a row. And the referee says, yeah, we're watching. I said, well, then go and blow your whistle. Yeah. And then I come across cheesy because I'm complaining.
Yeah, well, we all complain about our officials. I do feel, when I'm out of the jurisdiction, I do miss Cardinal. So I do think, I think we have a professional bunch of refs and good people, and they do a good job, but these are probably going to be some
I
frustrating.
100% agree with that.
Agree.
Yeah,
All around the country, AAU, these guys do a very professional job. They may not be as accurate as I'd like, but they do it professionally. And I feel like they're trying to, the guys that, yell it from the far end. Yeah, 25, that kid over there, she's got one,
Yeah.
professional. I think the guys here are really professional, and I respect that, It's a tough situation. I mean, you could say there's not enough players, there's not enough coaches, and there's not enough officials, just not enough.
Well, yeah, and that's the circumstance. That's the situation that makes it, are we doing what's best for kids by doing this? I mean, if we need more officials, we need to play Saturday games or Thursday games, or, let us know, because I think this problem has been known for more than a week. So we could do stuff. We can we're athletes, right? We can adjust, but it's unfortunate when we just say, well, we're just going to go with it and make the most out of it, when it's not really the best situation that we could, because we're smart.
yeah, it's and it's not just basketball, it's all sports where there's a shortage of officials and all different types of all levels too. So this is something that we're going to have to get something we're going to have to be used to.
Well,
Fred,
Julian, are you going to come back?
I thought about it, but the problem is I run my mouth so much that it's kind of hard to run your mouth a lot, and then then you have to go out and officiate a game. And I thought this guy knew what he was talking about. He talks a good game on his channel there, but no,
You can just go, that's my twin or something.
Exactly. I don't know that guy. No, I'm
Blame,
thinking.
blame your brother. Blame your brother.
Yeah, exactly. I could be another Gil Mack. So, but people used to say we looked like Gil and I. And Fred, I used to hate getting calls wrong in Oakton. I know I would get an earful if I got one of Coach Priester's calls wrong. So I haven't gotten those days. But guys, are there any other issues out there that are pressing that we should talk about with the game, the girls' game in particular, or high school athletics?
Well, the other coaches think not an issue, but just another shout out. My high school coach, Coach Kelly, surpassed the 300 mark.
Wow.
And now that I've actually been coaching for a little while and realizing how hard some of those milestones are to get to,
I know.
especially, Coach, you're at over 700, aren't you?
Me?
Yeah. More than that?
Yes, I'm more than
Well, that's wonderful. And I feel like I needed to say something for Coach Kelly, because for her to get 300 was really cool to see, and it's something I aspire to. So just another shout out.
I mean, I'm not taking any credit for it, but I mean, I coached her when she was playing, so
Was that right? Yeah.
Hey, listen, I go way back. So she played AAU for me for a couple of years. So
Coach Amanda's you got longevity in your coaching tree, and you got some good coaches and longevity in your tree.
Great role models. They made me realize that this was a possibility, both Coach Appleberry and Coach Kelly. So yeah, very grateful for both of them.
Yeah, Coach Kelly's great. I saw her down at Madison doing her against Madison last year in the state final doing her thing, and she really does command her team, and she's actively involved in the game and at all moments. Very, very impressive. So, is there anything else, guys, you wanted to cover today, or? Well, one thing we can end with just is kind of keys to the end to the rest of the season, either for your team or generally for the teams that emerge. What are some of the keys as we go into the meat of the district schedule and into the postseason?
I think everybody will be looking for consistency and trying to stay healthy and keeping our fingers crossed that no one gets hurt, and try to get on some sort of a positive run. But as I said, I mean, all the games I've seen, even some games that the score spread out, there were moments in that game when a break this way or a break that way could have changed the entire outcome. So I think I think we're looking at lots of 50-50 games coming down the road. You know, I think it'll be exciting. If you're an unengaged fan, I mean, you'll be seeing some competitive basketball, not always good basketball, but competitive basketball. And that's good. That's good for the game.
So it's very different than last year when Madison is clearly a team to beat. This year it's wide open. And talking about plays that can make a difference, I interviewed Coach Counts, the Madison football coach, after they won the region this year, and he said football comes down to usually 6 plays in a game, 6 seminal plays, and who does the best of those 6 plays generally takes the win. I wonder if there's a corollary in basketball. And there's a number of plays that the game comes down to, but I'm sure there probably is. So, anybody else?
I think that I was just telling, I was actually telling a bunch of second graders this morning at a clinic that basketball is a really cool sport because you have to do 5 or 6 things right in a row as fast as you can out in the middle of the place with everybody watching you. And if you make a mistake, everybody knows. And if you do it right, everybody knows.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I put it then. You have to, take your shot, get a rebound, play defense, get back on defense, find your kid, all those things. And then these were second graders and they were like, their eyes were like this big, that's why I think that's what makes basketball special. That's what makes it hard. As Tom Hanks said in League of Their Own, the hard is what makes it great.
Especially when you know really small gyms like Madison or like Langley. I mean, you're right on the game, and it's everyone can see everything. There's really nowhere to hide in those gyms, and it is great to see, especially when it goes your way. Coach Noel, Coach Amanda, you have any nuggets of wisdom for us for the rest of the season?
No, we just want to go play hard, have a great time. And if we can do it more unified than the last couple of years, it feels like basketball is back on an upward trend.
I definitely think so. Yeah. So, how about you, Coach Amanda? Anything or?
Yeah, I think one thing is that we'll keep trying to improve. It's really difficult at this point in the season to have that balance of game plan because you have to be so focused on your next opponent and then also finding time to make sure we don't get stale. Like we have to be improving and getting better because everybody else is getting better. So that's definitely a tough balance at this point because you want to win these games so bad and you invest a lot into preparing for an opponent, a lot of practice time, a lot of film time that you sometimes sacrifice the skill development, and that balance is the thing that we're going to strive for a lot going forward.
Yeah, with the film, you do a lot of NFHS. You watch a lot of teams play.
I have a problem. Yeah, way too much time.
Yeah, that's great. So, well, look, guys, I thanks for all the for your time first, but also all the time you spend with the girls. It's for a neutral. I love basketball season, and I try to catch a couple games a week. I'm definitely got to catch you guys' games. I haven't been to Coach Noel's game, or I don't think I've been to Coach Amanda's games yet. But I promise you I'll catch you a game before the end of the season. My son's been around the last month or so we've gone to all the Yorktown games. But now I'll try to branch out and try to see as many games as possible. But anyway, thanks for doing this and sharing your views. It's so many times people come up and ask me, when are you going to do another one of those coaches things again? People really like when I talk to coaches. I guess they can learn how coaches think, and a lot of parents spend a lot of agony trying to get their kids on the right team in front of the right coach, and they want to have the best experience for their kid, and so they really appreciate what goes on in the coach's mind. And I'm sure you guys, because Coach Priester had kids just finished playing, but I guess you probably see it from the other angle at this point. But I'm sure the shoe can always be on the other foot. But I think it really helps parents to hear what's on the coach's mind and to realize that, your job is comprehensive and really tough. So anyway, thanks again for doing it. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you guys on the courts really soon.
Thanks for what you do in this day and age where we don't get kind of the coverage that I can go back not that long ago, and we, had 2 or 3 newspapers who were covering things and things like. And I don't know. I know you have a good following, and I also watch some of your other stuff with some of the people that are maybe even outside of our little Northern Virginia basketball world. So thank you for all you do, and of course, good luck to Amanda and Noel, except next Friday. And
Thank you.
Thank
but
you for
anyway,
having us.
Yep,
but so we'll see. I'm sure we'll all be in the same mix at the end.
Yeah, it's a tournament game because no matter where we are right now, the scoreboard is 0-0 in tournament time, right? So it's
Absolutely.
yeah.
We'll see the other coaches on the court and at those fun meetings at the end of the season.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. And thanks for the kind words. All